Good morning, Patrick here from Complete Health. I just wanted to talk about stress. Many of you guys will have heard me talk about the concept of stress and how much of an impact that it can start to have on our body. But what do we do when we actually get stressed? What things can we actually do that will help us to improve and balance our body out if we're stressed? And so there are always three go-tos that I will follow, that when I feel excessively stressed, that I will go to maybe more than I would normally do. So stress comes in many different forms. We can have emotional stress, e.g., work's being difficult, or in my case, your house is being rebuilt and there's pretty much nowhere in your house that you can go. Or it might be physical. It might be emotional as far as a loss or a grievance might be concerned, or it might start to be chemicals that we're putting into our bodies that start to imbalance certain stress hormones in our body. But essentially, stress is what most scientists will now start to agree leads to disease. And when we use the term disease and when we use the term stress, it is quite broad. And yes, emotional stress is involved in this. But stress basically means anything that we put on our body that will force an adaptation. And sometimes we can have positive stress, but most stress that we're talking about in this scenario is negative. So what can we do? What can we do if we feel like there's excessive amounts of stress going on? Well, first of all, if you're feeling incredibly overwhelmed, it's probably best to discuss it with someone. However, if you're just starting to feel stress creeping in and you're feeling like things are a little bit difficult to cope with, there are some really simple things that you can start to do to help you to manage things. Obviously, first thing, take a step back. Now, it has been an incredibly stressful situation where obviously everyone's going back to work, the roads are starting to get busier again, schools are starting to go back. It's very exciting being able to go back to the pubs and beer gardens and stuff like where we can go and sit outside. Cafes and restaurants are just starting to kind of slowly creep their way open, obviously with the idea that everything is going to be a little bit more lax from next month, which is great. However, with these kinds of situations, there's a lot of people in their workplace that will have had to really push themselves a lot harder and faster than usual to try and get prepared for when they go back. I know because we did the same thing last year when we reopened the clinic. However, what three things do I always go to in order to try and actually manage these stress levels? So obviously with my house being built, I am trying to manage my stress. So I've actually doubled up stuff like my meditation. Now, a lot of people think that obviously meditation is like Tibetan monks humming on the top of a brick at the top of a mountain somewhere. And ironically, meditation is just taking some time to reflect and maybe take some deep breaths and just spend 5 minutes just trying to center yourself again so that all of those really crazy thoughts that you might be having throughout the day, you can calm them down. Now, generally, as a rule of thumb, I use guided meditations, so I'm always going to use tapes, and I use a group called the Mindful Movement from YouTube, really good, and some of Joe Dispenza's stuff is really good as well. But other things that can really help people when they're in stress is stuff like exercise as well. Now, interestingly, exercise naturally boosts your serotonin and dopamine responses, which are two of the hormones that will bring you away from stress. So just by taking a 30-minute walk each day, you can actually drastically reduce your stress levels. And interestingly enough, mental health issues have been shown to improve with exercise. So things like depression, anxiety, they improve when people regularly exercise. The most difficult thing is getting someone that's depressed and anxious to start doing exercise. Other things you can do, diet. Now, interestingly enough, most people don't realize this. About 98% of your serotonin, which is your feel-good hormone, is produced around your colon. And if these kinds of hormones and chemicals are being produced in your colon, and your colon is not being well looked after or it's not functioning properly, then guess what? This will add on top. Which is why when we talk about things in chiropractic, we're talking about holistic care. We're always trying to encourage our clients to eat a better diet. We're always trying to encourage our clients to exercise, whether it's the specific exercises that I give them for their rehabilitation, but alongside that, I'm always encouraging patients to do something. I had a gentleman this year, and I keep eternally telling him how impressed I am with him, because in the time that he spent with me, He's given up smoking, and the reason why he gave up smoking is so that he could afford his care. And as a result, his blood pressure has already dropped down. He started taking 45 minutes to an hour's walk every single day. He's lost nearly a stone. And it's just a huge change on his body. And is it fair to say that that person's body is going to deal and cope with the stresses of his environment much better if he's in a healthier position? And the reality of it's true is that when stress then really builds up, if our body is unhealthy, this is typically the times where we see people develop certain diseases, stuff like heart attacks, cancer, diabetes, etc., where we've stressed our bodies out physically through the foods and diet and the lack of exercise. And then when we get really emotionally stressed as well, then these things start to build up as well. So don't let stress build up. And like I say, I'm talking about this because obviously at the moment, everything in my life has been really up. And so as a result, like I say, I've taken up more exercise. I'm trying to look after my diet as well as possible, which is difficult when you don't have a functioning house. And then obviously starting to do a little bit more meditation exercise, like I say. So look, if you need any advice, maybe there's some stuff going on, talk to us in your next appointment. We'll try and advise you if there's something going on and try and send you in the right direction. But don't suffer with these things in silence, because stress is a huge thing, especially right now where the world has been a completely different place for the last 12 months. Patrick here for Complete Health. Look after yourselves, and I'll speak to you guys again soon. Take care for now.